Hello. Gandang hapon sa inyong lahat. Okay. And welcome to Fundasyon Santo. Thanks for having me. So, binigay sa akin pong assignment. Diba? Sabi ko, ha? Art? I mean, I've been shooting museums before, no? But not really art specifically individualized, you know. So, of course, nung in-accept ko, I have to do research on my own, you know. So, like sinabi ni Ricky, I have been into photography for almost, well, a little bit over 20 years now, you know. So, I started, I was in networking before, with internet, so I have the usual 85 jobs as a computer at me, and then got bored with the job, you know, so I was thinking of doing something different, you know. And photography was a hobby back then. But so I was thinking, what can I do with photography? Ayoko naman yung, going to everything that most people are doing, like doing weddings, doing corporate shoots, ayoko na ganun, no? So I looked for something different, and then I stumbled upon doing 360 photography. You guys know what 360 virtual reality is? Sure, diba? It's like Google Street View, but better, you know. So, just to give you an idea, I have here, since down National Museum, I'll just do something like this. Okay. I think last project go for, this is Yuchenko Museum in Ayala. So, this is a 360 image. So you can zoom in and zoom out. You can go in. So in lobby, you can identify hotspots, painting. So same thing. You know? So we also did this for most of the galleries at the National Museum. This was during pandemic. So kulong tayo lahat, walang magawa. So you know. So May asked me, okay, can we document the National Museum? Because at that time, people couldn't travel. So we're using this technology as one way, you know, to engage public, and at the same time, you know, continue to connect people to the National Museum. So these are work of Fernando Masolo. You know? So, yan po siya. Tulad niyo, ano? This. So you can go in through several galleries, no? You can look up, you can look down. So yan po yung 360. And that's what I specialize in. What is art? You know, so I go through the internet, and these are some of the things I found out. So art is subjective, of course, you know, so it depends on your perception, you know. It can be emotional, you know, connections. So, and then it can also be, you know, a medium of expression for the artist itself, you know. And so it can go through from emotional to the physical work, you know. So, and it's not just painting, so it can be sculpture, film, dance, writing, even photography itself. Okay. So why do we need to document art? You know. So those are the basic things. Of course, you want to have a sample of your work. Okay, sorry. You want to enter it into competition. You want to create a digital catalog. You know. So virtual exhibits as usual, and it's also one way to document. Archive, you know, and of course, the deeper meaning is to be part of the collective memory. So we document it now so that, you know, future generation can also experience those things. So these are the basic tools we all usually need. You know? So of course, you have your camera, you know, your memory card, you know, computer, lights if you need it, you know, power bank kasama dyan. And of course, the most important, the tripod. You know, tripod can be anything. You know, it could be a standard tripod, it could be a monopod. It's just one thing to keep your camera stable. So this is, like I said, I'll just go through the basics of mobile photography. So this is the same lecture I delivered to the National Museum and also with the Australian Embassy. So there are three basic things you need to understand if you're doing photography. So whether it's from mobile phone or from a DSLR, and those are the shutter speed, the aperture, and the ISO. The shutter speed is yun yung gaano kabilis when you click the camera, which directly affects whether your photograph will come out sharp or blurry. You know? So that also depends on the amount of light entering your camera, and that's aperture. So the aperture control, parang siyang iris na controls how much amount of light is entering your camera. Now, and lastly, yun yung ISO, yun yung sensitivity ng camera. You know? So, pag medyo dark, you want to increase the ISO, which is the sensitivity. That's why, you know, when you in the dark room, you will increase your ISO. If you're outside, very bright, then you will increase your ISO. Another effect of ISO is if you have a very high ISO, may trade-off yan eh. If you have a very high ISO, the picture tends to be grainy. So medyo grainy, parang medyo madumi siya, you know. So normally, we'll go about anywhere in between, that's 400 ISO. The general usage, 400 ISO, the aperture, usually f8 to f11, yun yung sweet spot eh, you know. And shutter speed, that will of course depends on the lighting, you know. So if you're in the bright room, you know, you adjust for that. Yan yung corresponding. So if you go from f2.8, f22, yan yung magiging effect. So f2.8, yun yung pinaka-opening ng aperture. So that's where a lot of light's coming in. If you go to f22, maliit na lang yung hole for the camera to receive the light. Now, one thing that corresponds to the F number is if you increase the depth of field, you know, if you go to F16, F22, yung what we call the depth of field, you know, so yung may foreground cuts, may background, you know, so both of them will be sharp. But if you go to a shallower depth of field, yung foreground na ma-capture, so yung background natin will blur. So but that's one effect from camera. If you let's say shooting portrait, you want the background to be blurred, you know, kumbaga yung foreground na sharp, then you will go with the shadow depth field. So anywhere from f4 to f5.6. But if you want both the foreground and the background to be sharp, then you go higher up, f16 or f22. Okay, so interrelation siya ng camera. Alright? So first rule, of course, keep the lens clean. So very basic, you know, I mean, you can use any clean cloth or even a tissue paper. If I'm out in the field, I would just use my handkerchief, you know, or the inner side of my shirt just to wipe it. You know, on your camera, if you have one, you know, try to read the manual. You'll be amazed that you can discover something na hindi mo pala nagamit, you know. So the manual is there, okay? And also, of course, you can read them online. The good thing with digital photography is you can take as much pictures as you like. You know, you're no longer limited to the film days. Na, you know, titipid kami, you know, I mean, 16 shots, 24 shots, you know, you have to manage them. But now, you know, you can take as many pictures, limited by your battery and of course your memory card. Okay? Most of the pictures I'm showing are taken with a mobile camera. So it's either I'm using up 10, this is Samsung S6. So S6, so ano tayo yun? S20 or probably, you know, or 21, you know, so wala na. But the Samsung S6 has 16 megapixel. So it's good enough for me up there. What you can do with a 16 megapixel, this was shot with the Samsung. So 16 megapixels, yeah. Okay, so they printed it. Ganyan siya kalaki. You can blow it as big as this one. So 16 megapixels yan. Okay. So, pwede na actually, pwede na siya. So, you can do this. I was part of the Balangay project. So, several years ago, we recreated the replica of the Balangay boat, which is the Butuan boat, and we'll sell it around Southeast Asia and as far as China and coming back. Together with the Philippines Mount Everest team, the one who first summited Mount Everest. So they're now Coast Guard officers. So if mobile phone allows you to zoom, to use it or not, it depends, So there are two kinds of zoom, what we call the digital zoom and the optical zoom. If your phone has an optical zoom, you can zoom in. But if you zoom on a digital zoom, what it does is it just enlarge the pixel. So nagiging pixelated siya. So if meron kang optical zoom, use it. But if it's a digital zoom, probably 1 or 2 times lang. If you zoom close enough, wala. Okay? Nakikita mo grainy yung picture mo. Okay? Backlights, sometimes we encounter them, the sun is behind. So it's not all that bad, depends on how you plan to use it. You can create silhouettes or shadows, you can do those things. So don't be afraid of backlight. Of course, you can zoom, you can may macro function ng phone, So again, this was taken with the Samsung S6. Kaya. Because Samsung S6 has optical zoom 2 times, so you can do that. Flash, when we go to museums, they often do not use flash, The reason being, the light, the intensity of the light affects the pigment of the paint sometimes. So that's why most museums discourage using flash photography. So, but if you're outside, yeah, you can use that. Okay. The flash can also be used as a fill light. So let's say if you have multiple sources of light, I'll explain it. You can use a flash as a kind of a fill-in light. So ito yung chart ng camera resolution. So right now, I think the standard is already 50 megapixel. So imagine what you can do with a 50 megapixel, probably 4 times the size of the magazine. So basically, it's just a measurement, the horizontal versus the vertical pixel dimension. Okay. So of course, the higher the megapixel, the more pixel, the more resolution you can have. Yung susunod na chart, so ito yung sample. So before, ang TV natin, yung standard TV is way before the red one, probably smaller, 640 by 480. I think some of you might remember those kind of resolution. So right now, we are on HD, which is this one here. So yan a full HD. 4K is that big, no? And then if you go higher, 5K, 4K, 5K, 6K, 8K, what it does is it just measures the horizontal dimension of the image. So this is 5, yeah. And then we go up as 8K, which has 8,000 by 4,000 resolution. So yun lang yung measure ng dimension ng pixel. Okay? So, basic composition. So, in photography, we have what we call balance. So, what it does is, you tend to balance your picture. So, you have something on the right na medyo heavy, so you will give more space on your left side or vice versa. So, balance lang. Okay? Of course, you can always position your subject at the middle, but then it's boring. Everyone's doing that, Try to be different. Okay? Framing, you can use door jumps, the frame of that's why we have frames sa images. Basically, it's like that. So it parang adds focus to pinpoint our view into the image. So the very basic, the rule of thirds. So what this means is you divide the image, the view screen, yung tiktak na pattern, and you will position the subject at any of the intersecting points. So there are 4, so yung subject, lagay mo lang sila doon. So up, down, left, right, either those. Okay? In documenting art, enabling the grid is very important because yan ang magiging guiding lights go where your painting capture is straight, it's horizontal. So enabling the grid. I always have my grid lights enabled, so it's one way of, making your photograph more perceivable. Keep your horizon straight. If you're shooting, hindi yun. Balance, no. If it has a horizon, just keep it straight. And if you notice, it's applying the rule of thirds. So the ocean is 2/3 of the entire picture. Okay. So andun siya. Diagonal lines, if you see them, we call that it's dynamic, So parang it gives strength, and power to your image. Yung leading lines, if you see the pathway, so I use them leading to yung spike na tower. So it guides the eye, So marami sa paintings, ganun din ginagawa. Normally, glides your eyes toward the distance. And I use the post and vertical building for alignment. So you can use them to straight. If you're capturing architecture, you use that. Perspective, whether it's downward looking up or upward looking down, you can be a bit different, So we normally shoot people standing up. So you can try configuration, you can go down, up, or you can go up and go down. When's the best time to shoot? You probably heard this a lot of time. Morning hours or just after sunset, wherein, the lights a bit warmer, softer. So if you're shooting portraits, you would like to have a better toned out image. If you're shooting people, highlight your eyes. It's always the eyes people look at, especially for painting. It's the eyes we're normally drawn to, so just highlight the eyes. Okay? Group shot. Better arrangement, alternating views. Chun shots, jump shots. Your camera now, it's very easy to use. You can just hold, press your shuttle and hold. It takes successive photos, so you can do that, So hindi na yung, jump again. You don't need to do that, right? If you're shooting night scenes, the best time to shoot is not after dark. Don't wait until the sky is dark, because when you shoot it, you just get a black sky. So right after sunset, you can still capture a blue sky. This also works during mornings before sunrise, so you can fake it. Even if it's raining and cloudy, after sunset or before sunrise, you can capture a blue sky. Same, macro shots. Again, this is S6. If you're shooting panoramic, you can do that with your phone, main function. But one thing I just want to guide you is if you're shooting panorama, normally in lens, we do like this, turn, capture it, but try to turn on the axis of your camera or where the lens are. So instead of turning like this, I think lens, you turn it on the axis of the lens. So this will give you a better stitching. Hindi mas mahirapan yung camera. Okay? So better stitching, better image. So turn it like this, not like this. Malaking error. Okay? Alright. So like SLR, your mobile phone has several functions. Nandiyan na lahat, portrait, panoramic, landscape, everything. So it goes the same whether you're on Android or you're on iOS. So if you use DSLR, yan yung mga functions, So AD stands for aperture priority, TV stands for shutter. You prioritize certain modes of your camera. M is for manual, P is for program, P is for tamatigo, bahala ng camera, just like that. Okay? And the rest, portrait, macro, sports, landscape. So basically, yan lang siya. Lots of camera apps. You can also use this if you're shooting art. My favorite is using Snapseed. Snapseed is from Google, so it's a free app, and it allows you a lot of functions, almost like you're having Photoshop on your phone or iPad, and it's free, So Snapseed is from Google. I show you mamaya, we'll go into that. Process of image, especially if you're sending it to your clients or doing exhibits, we'll go into that also later. Don't be afraid of black and white. Sometimes it's nice. When you're doing photography, you capture the moments. Okay, those are priceless. Don't be afraid of shadows. Try collage also to tell a story. If you're in photojournalism, you can use collage to tell a story. And always have fun doing photography. Okay, so here we are, capturing art. So below is the work we did with May in the National Museum during pandemic. So like I said, we're now going into capturing art. Okay, so enable your the grid function, like I said, so that's your basis, and that's also your guiding, guiding lines. All right. So tips how to shoot photo. So normally, ang painting natin, it's not mounted on the wall, it's on the easel, So those are some of the ways you do that. The white board is just to minimize distraction at the background. So because you have a background, you cannot just put it out, no? So you like to put a whiteboard. It could also be black, if you like black. And one advantage of having a blackboard is you don't see the shadow. Diba? Shadow is black. If you have a blackboard, you don't see the shadow. So that's also one way. Especially if you're shooting art pieces, not 3D, you can use those. Okay? So, of course, to minimize distortion, kasi the painting is slanted, if you point it straight to camera, you get the perspective error. So parang yung trapezoid, the bottom part is narrower, the upper part is longer. Mamaya I'll show you how to correct them, okay? But sometimes there's no way to avoid them. So those are two of the ways to shoot them. So angle your camera phone at the same angle as the painting, okay? So you can use your hand. You can hold your camera if you're outdoor. So the best time, the best place to shoot your art is actually outside with natural light. You want to use natural light as possible because the tonal, the color when you capture is more natural, more truer to what the painting is. Okay, so ideally outside, shaded, and not red light. May sun, okay lang kasi shaded siya. Very bright. Cloudy, much better, so you get more diffuse light, and outdoors in cloudy days. You can use white cardboard as a reflector, okay? So, if you have a single light source, dun ka sa may window side, okay? So you can position your artwork where it's slanted on a wall or on the floor and shoot it top bottom. Of course, those technique works only if your art pieces or your painting has no glass. Okay? Pag may glass, may reflection. So we'll go into that details how to eliminate that. Okay? So likewise, you can use a white paper, just a roll sheet, so position it behind, you can do. So it's almost the same setup as if you're in a photo studio. So you see in studio, you have a roll of paper, just to eliminate that. The roll there, parang hindi mo makikita yung cut off, like if you're straight up, So continuous siya, wala yung, from, termination from vertical to horizontal. So yun lang yun. Okay? Of course, you can use any variations of that one. So I was asked, some of you might ask, how do we shoot through glass? So this is one way. Glass cannot be avoided. If best is kung matanggal mo siya, easier, makes your life easier. But if you cannot replace it, there are ways to do it. Okay. This technique, mostly if you're using DSLR. I'm sure most of us can get that, but if you're shooting through the best way is if you have a DSLR. But you can still get away with using a mobile phone. The problem is, because with the mobile phone, you have to go very near the photo. If you have a zoom na kaya, you can stay away farther. Because if you go near, like this one, makikita ka. Even from an angle, I can see you guys. Diba? You can see me reflecting on a certain angle. But there are tricks on how you can do that. So one way is you can use two lights, 45 degrees at each other, and then shoot. But you cover your camera, straight front. So you can either use a board or you can use a drape sheet or a textile. So just cover yung lens lang yung nakalabas. No? Same thing if you're holding a mobile phone, of course, best may tripod yung mobile phone mo. Eh, marami naman nabibili na tripod for mobile phone. So you can use that to capture your art pieces. So that's one way. Nakita yung pinto sa side. So he's using the white door as a reflector. Kasi ang light lang niya, yung picture niya is coming from one side of the window. So remember yung previous slides ko. So he uses a whiteboard as a reflector. This one, you can use wall as a reflector. So actually, you can also use any wall that medyo not black, gray is best, So one way is, let's say, if you don't have a room, then you can use cloths just to cover on one side. Okay, I'll show you some samples. Okay, so it's a black cloth there in front, same as this one, na may board, and then you have lights positioned there. Okay, so same thing. If you angle your camera on the same angle as the painting. Okay. One thing you need to know is what we call the white balance, because the white balance affects the tonal density of the image. So, white balance we have several, tungsten, fluorescent, flash, cloudy, shades, and light. So, cool to warm, because in a gallery or in a space, we have different light. Like here, mostly we have warm yellow light, okay? And if you use an LED, that's usually cool and white. So it pays, if you shoot it, actually even the mobile phones, in professional mode, you can select your white balance. So what this means is, if your dominant light is yellow, you will select a tungsten light. So it balances out. Because what the tungsten does is, it will add cooler shade to your warmer yellow light. So para i-neutralize siya. So likewise, if you medyo cloudy shade, kasi cloudy environment adds warmer light, then you will go towards the bluer side to add blue light to your warm light. Gets? So it's just a matter of neutralizing the color tinge ng dominant light. But sometimes, you can have multiple tonal sources. Like this one, may yellow light, tapos minsan may fluorescent light na sa taas. So, it interferes, no? So sometimes you can get away with just setting auto, letting your camera do the decision. But often the time, what we want to do if we do white balance is white balance for the dominant light. So, ano yung mas dominant sa'yo? Ano yung mas brighter? If you can see more yellow, then you balance for yellow. If you can see more cool, then you balance for the cool light. Okay? So, yan are some examples of what the white balance do. Yung AWD, you just let your camera decide, So, daylight, much warmer tone, cloudy, tungsten, red tones. So, yun ang po yun. So these are some of the samples you can see. So on your left, okay. So it has actually multiple light sources if you look closely. So there are 3 lights, So one on the left, which is bright, and then yung sa right mo, which is cool, and then yung gitna, meron pa. So that's why in intersection there's 3 shades you can see here. So there's 1, 2, and okay. So what the sample does, he uses flash sa camera, balance everything out. Of course, there are trade-off. Depends on how far or how wide or how powerful your flash is. Normal cell phone natin, can only go for a few feet lang. But if you have in-camera flash or your in-camera flash, which is more powerful, you can use this. But of course, again, this works if your painting has no glass. Okay, pag may glass, wala, may artifacts na yan. Okay, so, try to do that. So, pag talagang wala, then you have to use external light sources na. Yung bulb lights at 45 degrees angle. Okay, so how do we take pictures? If you have a steady hand, you can hold it. If not, normally you hold it with 2 hands. Your arms here for stability, like this, because it tends to shake. Meron pa rin yan. Especially in low light, kahit na hindi mo kita, sometimes your picture will come out a bit blurry. Okay? Again, check for even lighting, and be aware of the shadows being cast by the lights. And of course, use the timer. And use the timer if you can. Then tripod, and then set the timer, 5 seconds lang, so you can run away. And also, that's also one way to minimize your reflection, so use a timer, set it, get away, para makita. Alright, so exciting part there, So, my favorite photo editor, I use either Photoshop, everybody uses Photoshop probably, and Affinity Photo. But Photoshop nowadays, gana yung you just download the software, whether legally or illegally, But now you have to pay a subscription fee for Photoshop. This is kind of steep, So Affinity Photo is much cheaper. It's like a few $100+ US, and it's a full-fledged software now. There's no subscription. It stays in your computer, and you can do almost anything that Photoshop can do. Okay, I mean, for our needs, it's more than enough. I've been using Photoshop ever since I started photography, but I don't use the latest Photoshop. I use Photoshop CS2 pa. So way back, more than 10 years ago. It's enough for my need, and it uses less resources on your computer. So if you have a lower capability computer, Photoshop CS2. I'll show you mommy how you can legally download it. All right. So, one thing you just need to keep in mind is, of course, the resolution, which translates directly to how big your image size will be. We normally use JPEG or PNG. JPEG, ubiquitous file format, but JPEG kasi it's compressed. So some quality of the photo, medyo may degradation yan when you use JPEG. Same with PNG, but PNG allows you to have transparency sa likod. The best file format is of course TIFF. TIFF, TIFF, ng file size niya. So it's impractical to transmit it online, but if you're giving it as part of your storage, digital storage, MMC, SD card, walang problema yun, So, yun na yung balancing to, Color profile, we normally use RGB. CMYK is for printing, where if you're printing your image, your printer will request you to have it in CMYK. CMYK is just a standard for cyan, magenta, yellow, black. K is black. So, yun na yun. Okay? So, yun yung color profile. Normally, it's RGB. Yun naman yung default. Okay? Right? So, yun yung Snapseed. So, for Google. So, you can see, it has a lot of tools you can use, Ang pinaka-best function dyan is yung perspective correction. So, when you shoot an image na medyo skew, you use the perspective correction. I'll show you later how it's being done. Okay? Of course, you can check whatever other functions there, but it's free. It's from Google. I'm not from Google, but it's the easiest. So Photoshop CS2. Let me bring an image. So prior to the talk, I was here at Sansor, so I already take some shots of the image around. Yeah, let's try Yan yung, yeah, that one. Okay, so, may glass yan, if you can see. So, there's no way for me to shoot it straight up. No? So I have to angle a little bit. Kaya medyo scoop siya. No? So, I shot it from this side. Okay? So, how do you correct this? So, at least, that way, very minimal reflection. But I did not use, kasi at that time, I need to cover this side. Dapat. So, whether you have a whiteboard or a very large thing, cover. Kaya, makikita mo, mayroon pa siyang isang maliit na reflection. Yung square. So, that is probably from one of those. Yeah. But if you have a whiteboard to cover this, mami-minimize mo siya. Okay? But, may sample ako din mamaya. Okay? So, how do we correct this? Oh, hi.
Meron akong i-add sa sinabi mo kanina.
Okay.
One thing nice about...
Alvin, everyone. Alvin.
Hello. So one thing nice about one of the tools he said is that unlike Photoshop, it doesn't train on your whatever you upload or whatever you actually edit in it. Because right now, if you're using Photoshop, it does train AI on whatever artwork you or anything that you upload through it. So Affinity has more protection in terms of your data. So I think that's something that needs to be said to the people here.
But that is only if you're using the latest Photoshop and if you have the money for it. You know, like most of us, walang panggastos, we tend to use the cheaper version. So, walang AI yun. And in Photoshop Go, I was telling them I'm using CS2 lang. So, you don't have to worry about it.
Yeah, the older ones you're safe.
Oo.
As long as it doesn't connect online and the like. Yeah.
Okay, I need to free one of my hand. Okay. Okay, so yan ang image. Okay. First thing I normally edit is I enable the grid line. So yung mga lines yan. So yun yung guiding mo. So for Affinity, you can just, andyan lang yan, show grid. Same thing with Photoshop, show grid, you can remove. Yun lang. Okay. So since itong image is skew, because I had to take it from the side because may glass nga siya. No. So we will use yung function dito, which is yung perspective correction. So same thing, Photoshop. Okay. So, and then again, we'll do the show grid. And then we'll adjust. Yun yung 4 point nun sa image. So you can see 1, 2, sa baba, 3, and yung isa hidden. So the grid lines is there, you just drag it, So gawin din ng straight yun. Right? Do the same sa baba. Yeah. So I have what we call siyang snap on grid. Yung snap na automatically naglalak siya sa nearest horizontal points na. So you just go through again until ma-perfect mo siya. Perspective correction is more or less a hit and miss kind of thing. You just have to go through with it. Okay? So yan yun siya. Okay? So, hindi naman siya mahirap gawin. You just have to get used to it, especially if you're shooting a lot. But of course, it's very tedious if you're shooting a lot of paintings. Isa-isahin mo siya. No? Yes?
Would it change yung ratio?
It has. It will, somewhat. Walang choice eh. You just need to balance it. Kumbaga, it's like more or less acceptable to your eyes. Because you're doing image distortion eh. When you shot it from the side, it's already distorted. Right? So, if you're doing perspective correction, lalo mo siyang dinidistort. Binabalik lang natin. But meron pa rin yan. So, there's no way to eliminate it talaga perfectly. Remember, we're doing this using a mobile phone. if you want to have a really perfect and correct perspective, ratio, you have to shoot it with a DSLR. With strobes, with lights, proper distance, with all those paraphernalia na may cardboard, may drape. That's the only way to do it, But mobile phone tayo, cheap lang tayo. So that's the only way we can do it. Okay? So that's one way. So basically, that's it. So yung ginawa ko here. So yeah, ito yung final. Yung ginawa ko sa bahay. You have more time, So meron pa rin konti if you will notice it, But pwede na for mobile phone, pwede na, diba? At least hindi siya distorted, diba? So it's just you're just creating a kind of a catalog, for your work, Not really for something like for printing in a magazine or whatever, but it's usable. Okay? So, yeah. This is a aluminum, what do you call that? Aluminum sheet. Okay. You can see reflection ng tao, shadow. Okay? I asked my wife to hold the board on the side. So yan yun. So it covers it na. Diba? So from here, diba? A reflection. So it just holds something. But of course, yung sheet, it's kind of small, so you can still see a bit from the side. If you have a bigger board, then that will completely remove it. Again, I have to shoot it skew, but you know how to do perspective correction already on that one. So same thing. Once you shut that, walang light yan so available light na. Kung ano yung nandyan, I just shoot it. No lighting, no flash, just shoot it straight. On the side. Okay? Mamaya, you can try it. So, yan siya. So, this one, wala siyang glass, like that one. So, it's very easier. So, it's very easy to shoot. So, just angle your camera the same angle as the image for the painting and just shoot it like that. So, ang trade-off ko lang dyan is yung available light. So, I was just using my hand just to hold it. Walang tripod din, So, if you have a tripod, it's much easier. Okay? Of course, all these are documented online. You can just Google CS2 documentation, then andun siya lahat. Okay? I'm just giving you a quick preview. So, same thing. You just grab same arrow. So the functionality is the same, So whether you're on Affinity Photo or you're on Photoshop, okay? And then you just have to crop it. Well, medyo may scoop but you get the idea, okay? So same. So we now go to image enhancement. From here on, I'll just be using Photoshop, okay? The free one. So like I said, you can get a free legal version of CS2 from itong link. So you can freely download this. Andyan yung serial number for Mac and Windows. So you can get CS2. The thing here is why you can get it somewhat free. Free siya talaga because Adobe already discontinued CS2. So, end of life na yung software, walang support, but all the functionality is there. So, parang re-release na nila. So, you can have Photoshop CS2, less resources, easier to use. Yan ang gamit ko. Walang subscription fee. Wala lahat. So, yeah. I can forward the link to you and then you can just propagate it. So, andyan siya. So, you can download it. So, andyan siya. Yeah, it's still good, So, yan siya. Okay? So, normally, if I do a shoot, I use basic image enhancement lang. Global in nature. Kumbaga, it affects the photo. I don't retouch it too much, as a photojournalist, we are, mandated to leave the image as pristine as
it is. Okay, but I'll show you some of the things that I normally do when I have a picture. Again, let's grab one from so. Let's use this one. You can see my light fall off on the right. So anyway, available light. That image is somewhere here again. That one. So teka, in adjusting not adjusting light. The darker part. So it's on the left hand when I shut it. So medyo dark, and then the other side is lighter. No, let's just use this image. I normally do a zoom of about 25% if the image is too big. It allows me to see the entirety of the image. Okay? So, yan siya. So, basic things I first do is I adjust the brightness and the contrast of the image. Okay. I will leave the brightness as is muna. I will first tweak the contrast. 15 is a good number to start with. No? You can already see a slight difference. Diba? Yung pinch, parang mas clear siya, mas sharp, mas crisp. No? So, from the original adjustment ng contrast. Okay? Then, I will go into shadows and highlights. Never mind the rest. Ang daming functions na yan. You just want to only focus on what is really needed. No? So, shadows and highlights. So, shadows pertains to the darker portion of the image and highlights in the brighter portion. So, we want to balance it. So, ang shadows go, you can start with, say, 20. And then a highlight of about, let's say, give it the same amount. Okay? So, yung mga darker portion, medyo may details na. Okay. Nakikita ko sa screen, the projector is a bit, so mas hindi clear, From the screen, there's a difference, okay? From that one to that one, okay? You can see may reflection ako kasi may glass. Okay, hindi ko na pinulit. I just shoot it head on, So, okay. So from the initial one, that one, nandiyan na tayo. Okay. You can see there's still a yellowish tinge because of the light. No? So, naka-auto white balance siya. No? So you can adjust this again for the balance. So, all these are basics lang, no? So, you can adjust going towards, so everything is subjective. There are sliders, you can just adjust them, and see which one is better. So, dito tayo from this one, move that one. Okay. And lastly, I will do sharpening for the image. Okay, so from the original to this one. So you can see the difference already, in tonal density niya. Okay. Let me give another example. Not with the artwork, but generally, let's say, exterior shades. This was one of my recent shots just last week. The light is behind, sunrise to. So, medyo dark yung front niya, if you can see. So, this is backlight. So, applying the same thing, I'll just be quick. So, brightness and contrast. Again, I did the brightness. I do a 15 level. I do the shadows, 20, and then the highlights, same 20. And then lastly, I will do a sharpen. So you can see from initial one, medyo dark, to the final one, mas light ito na. So it's very basic. Ito lang yung tatlong settings I usually adjust globally. So it makes the image up out already. So yeah, to that one. Okay. So yan lang yung 3 basic functions you can adjust. Okay. So there. Another cool thing I want to show you is there are times now you find yourself, you have already an existing digital image, diba? Taken way back, but then it was taken with a low-res camera and wala na yung artwork. So what you only have is just a digital file and you need to print it. How are you gonna do? Let's say low resolution pa yung taken with probably not Nokia 330, 310, but something else, na you only have the low-res digital file. How do you enlarge it to a print size, So there's a trick normally you can do. I lowered the original image into 20% its size. So let's say yung low-res file size niya. So this is I can see. This is about 600 by 600 pixels lang, So it's very, very small, 600 by 600 pixels. If you need to enlarge this, the trick here is you want to blow it like you save it. You increase straight from 600, let's say, to times 3 to 1800 or something. But there's a better way to increase file size and resolution without much destruction on the image. Kasi pag pina-enlarge mo yan, usually pixelated siya. Diba? Lumalabas pixelated. The trick here is to slowly do it, incrementally. So, shop again, image size, you do a percentage increase. Now, right now the painting is at 100%, diba? So you want to increase it by a factor of 10. So 110%. So you slightly enlarge it that way. And you do this multiple times instead of one straight na, from 100 increase mo siya to 500%. But you do it slowly. So 110 again, increase it incrementally, then 110 again. So right now, na isang iteration na tayo, right? So image size, again, you increase this to 110. Sorry. So 110 and 110. So you do it slowly. Percent. 110. So gradual. You can do this safely 5 to 6 times. That way, yung image degradation, hindi siya gaano halata. Rather than you do it one straight from 100 to 500%. Okay? So that's one trick to do it. Okay? I use this to do this technique when I was layouting a book, and then all the images I only got were low res, so there's no way for me to increase its resolution. So this is one way. Okay. So same, So before and after. So subtle differences lang, but then you see may effect siya. So mas brighter, mas nakikita yung dark details compared to the original one. Sometimes you take an image wherein you have a bright source of light and then a dark source of light. So one way to overcome it is what we call the exposure fusion. So we blend 3 images. So we take an image, some bright, yung normal niya, isang darker, tapos isang very bright. So I have here 3 images na I shot from the National Museum. The middle one is under normal lighting. The one on the left is much higher, so I expose a darker area, and then this one is super highlight. So what we did here is we're gonna combine 3 images into one. So by using a software called Infuse GUI, the software again, it's free. Okay, you can download this. So free siya, Infuse GUI. So yan yung magiging effect niya. No? So you blend 3. Of course, if you're shooting this, you need to be in a tripod. Because any movement, hindi magmamatch yung image, from the first to the third. So you can use a software called Infuse GUI. Okay, I'll show you how this works. Yeah. So it's free, you can download this. So what it does is, it takes 3 images. No? Okay, so you can see 3 images. So basically I just selected all the 3 images, throw it here, and then just do, so it's more or less automatic. So you can throw as many images as you want, So basta consecutive image, tatlo siya, sequentially numbered, when you take it. So this is one trick where you can do if you're shooting uneven, bright objects, So bright and dark objects, you can use this trick, Infuse GUI. I'll send this again to you. Okay.
Have you tried that, sir, with paintings?
Paintings, yes. Actually, you can go anything. Pwede siya. It doesn't matter. Basta it's an image, as long as if it's a 3 different exposure. You can also do 5 exposure, Basta, remember, but you can only do this with a DSLR if you image, So you capture 3 resolution, 1 underexposed, 1 overexposed, and 1 yung normal, and then you blend them together. Okay. Remember when if you're using camera, they have something called an HDR function. No idea. Okay. Anyway. Cell phone has it. Yung mga medyo bagong cellphone na medyo mabahalin na cellphone, meron dyan. It has an HDR function. But the function from the cell phone, it automatically does that. Okay. So when you press HDR, what the phone does is it takes 3 images already and then blend it. Automatic na siya. Okay? But if you're doing HDR, set it on a tripod. Kasi any motion, hindi magmamatch yun. Magkakaroon ka ng parang ghosting kind of image. Yeah, so it has to be perfectly aligned. So HDR stands for high dynamic range. So basically it does that. Okay? So super dark, super bright, normal. So the dark part, nakikita mo, and then yung bright part na hindi mo nakikita dito, nakikita mo siya. So 3 blended images. Okay? So shooting large scale paintings, like murals, like a sporarium, how do you shoot that? So if you need to shoot this, you need another software. So you need to use software, what we call a stitching software. So we take a series of photos and then we stitch them together. Parang nanahit, So, like for instance, let's say masyadong malaki to. So you take a portion, So you take a portion, 1 here, 1 down here, 1 here. So hanggang makuha mo siya lahat, but with enough overlap between images. So if you take, let's say, if you take from here to here, then your next image mo will be like 50% overlap of the next one, then 50% overlap. Basta may overlap. The overlap is being used by the software to stitch points. So ina-identify niya yung similarity between images. And yun yung what we call that stitching points. So I'll show you again. That's why if you see in sample ko, I have an almost 50% overlap from the first image to the next. Yung logo nandito, tapos nandito nakikita, next one. Hanggang makuha mo siya. So this one is dun sa Manila City Hall, yung bagong labos nila, you know. So yung run dyan. So I was asked to take this one. Ano ba naman, mahaba siya, di ba? So there's no way you can shut this. Yes?
Kung mag-shoot po ng malaking mural size, will it matter kung anong angle yung pag-shoot? Or
The good thing with the stitching software, it will automatically adjust perspective correction. So it doesn't matter. It's because, like I said, what it does is it's looking for stitching points na pareho. And then the software will automatically blend them on those stitching points. Okay? So, i-align niya, you know. But of course, it's not really perfect. But it can be perfect, you know. Depends on how far or near yung perspective correction that you have to do. So I shot this, let's say, yan siya. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So I shot it like this. While moving, kasi, di ba? Straight siya. So I shot here, 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 hanggang makompleto siya. So this one, I did a total of 6 images, you know, with enough overlap. Then I use a stitching software. Hindi nakikita ng screen, pero how do I say this? May mga stitching lines siya na makikita mo saan nag-overlap. And then, yun yung final result niya. Sa baba. No? Yes, sir.
sir, which is better? Panorama sa camera o yung stitch?
Stitching is better. Kasi sa panorama, may distortion eh. Remember, you're turning it not perfect eh. Kanina, I told the audience na you're doing panoramic, you rotate on the axis of the lens. Were you here kanina? That one? Narinig mo? Yeah, that one. Oh. But then, if you have a very wide space, if you're standing from your middle, may distortion na siya. Even if you rotate, those are far away on the sides. In the middle, mas malapit sa'yo. On your right, malayo. Diba? So, it's better na equidistance ka like this, rather than, you know, malayo. So, you shoot it that way. And then, you have to use stitching software. Meron naman free available. You can, again, if you have the latest Photoshop version, you can stitch them.
Meron din siya sa cellphone yan.
Sa cellphone, yun yung panoramic function.
Stitching sa wala.
Not stitching, automatic na siya sa cellphone. So if you're using cellphone, wala kang option. You just have to rotate it better. But the panoramic function works best kung malayo ang subject mo. Pag malapit, mahirap. May error because that's what we call parallax error, yung nearest and farthest, you know. But of course, cellphone na tayo, so okay na yun. This one's cellphone. But I use a stitching software, but stitching siya. Okay? So, yan yung labas. Then you just have to crop the image dun sa may gitna. May perspective pa rin eh. May error pa rin. Yun yung parallax error na medyo skew, you know, but you just crop it and get the portion na maganda. Kasi, when I shot this, wala akong masyadong overlap sa taas. You know? So, kaya, medyo putol siya. Okay? So, that's one way to do it. Okay? The stitching software I'm using is this one. It's called PT GUI. This is commercial version, sorry. But there's a free software called HUGIN, 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 which is free. But medyo may learning curve siya, you know. But it does give you very, very good results. This is Malacanang Museum. It was shot with a mobile phone. It's a complete panorama. 2016. I used, at the time, I used a Nokia Lumia 1020, which is a 40 megapixel phone. Bagong labas na yun, wala na yung Nokia. So I used the highest camera, mounted on a tripod, Presidential Museum. So, you can do it with a mobile phone. Medyo may trabaho ka lang, but it's possible. Technically, it's possible. Okay? So likewise, same, you can look up and down. It's a complete sphere. You can zoom close enough to read. I can read from my screen. Okay. But you can zoom close enough. Yeah. As FDR. Yeah, you can close it up. So, mobile phone lang siya. Mobile phone siya. Ang image niya is this. I'll show you the raw images. Yeah, it's that many. It's about 50. So, yeah, so properties, details. Yeah, no, Lumina than 20. No tricks. So, yeah, about 2016. Okay, so that's how many images I had to took to complete the entire sphere. Okay, so hindi yan. Okay, so yeah, it starts from here. Yeah. So you can see the progression. Shot series of photos. And then you angle your camera 45 degrees on top, 45 degrees downward until you take the entire thing. So ma-cover mo siya. It's also what we call the photogrammetry na rin siya. No? So if you're documenting your exhibits, this is one way to do it. So it's possible with a mobile phone. You don't need, medyo mahirap na. So imagine you have to take all these images. So isa-isa. Marami talaga. So mas madali if you have a DSLR and use a wide angle lens. So yung kanina pinakita ko sample, that the entire thing just 8 images because you have a wider lens, so mas malaking coverage. This one, narrow yun. We're limited eh. I think this is about 40 mm yung lens niya. So medyo narrow. Yeah, you have to take a lot of images. The biggest one is this from NM. Don't call it mural though. This is large scale artwork. Tama ba? Large scale. It's not a mural. Papagalitan kapag if you call it a mural. Large scale artwork. Okay? So, but I shot this with a DSLR, okay? Kasi hindi kaya. Because we really need to get close. So, I was using a Canon 70D, but you can do that. Naka-tripod na. You have to use tripod. Nandun ako sa pinakagitna ng room, which is here. So, I was equidistance, to everything. So, you can do that. With DSLR, okay? Kaya naman ng mobile phone. You probably end up with, 200 images? Ang hirap nun. Yeah. So, yeah. And may mga description siya when I did it. So, most of my work are here under Resource Center. So, yung ginawa namin ni May. Museum Foundations of the Philippines. Okay, thank you. So, you can check them. No? So, all these are documented. Pandemic so walang sasakyan. Nandun kami sa gitna. May Hawi boys.
Tagapayan.
Oo, may tagapayan. Walang pollution, walang smoke. Kami sa pandemic. So we shot all this one. Oh, question. Why are most paintings sa National Museum walang glass? Amosolos, Luna, wala sang glass. Oo, so there's no need. Okay. Tsaka it's better. Tsaka easier to shoot, di ba? I love this project when we did it. It was in cooperation with Senator Lauren Regala. Siya nag-voiceover when we did it. So, but this is one of our pet project, yung textile. I'm showing you this because mga problem na encounter ko rito, it's the same problem na, in a gallery. Reflecting glass, sometimes wala kang mga posisyon eh. There's glass in front of you, there's glass behind you, there's glass on your side, may reflection. Walang choice, But you just have to position yourself somewhat not perpendicular to those cases. So I will just shoot in between them, in corner, para hindi nakikita. So that's another way to do it. So don't stand directly. Oh yeah, so dito na tayo. Okay. So most of what I just show you, basic things where you can already apply, when you're shooting art or gallery or your way of life, when you just capture information. But just give you an idea. So as a former photojournalist, so we're guided by the ethics of photography. So I feel this is something I need to impact to the audience. So number one, be accurate. So you don't try to influence the scene you're shooting. You don't try to force people. Oh, tayo ka dito. You do this. Maraming gumagawa. But don't tend to do that. You just capture as pristine the scene as possible. So resist being manipulated. Okay? So walang stage opportunity. You don't tend to stage something. You don't ask people to position from one spot to the next. Hindi maganda yung character dyan. Tatanggalin mo. You just shoot it as is. Okay? So you provide context. What are you shooting? What is the story you want to impact? What is the essence you want to capture? So andyan siya. Okay? And of course, you don't stereotype your subjects. Okay, ganun siya, may kapansanan siya. You don't. You just be as factual as possible. So, and then again, you treat all your subject with dignity and respect. And then, like I said, you don't influence events, and even if you're editing, you don't remove or add something. Baso dyan na hindi maganda, tatanggalin mo, we don't do that, it's part of the scene, okay, and no harassing behaviors. So, those are the ethics now we're guided when we're shooting, so let the documenting cultural heritage sites. So, a lot of this, if you're in the arts, normally you will encounter cultural subjects or heritage in your everyday life or in your line of work. So, what is that? So, these are tangible and intangible things. It could be a dance, it could be a construction, it could be anything, movable, immovable. Those are all part of our heritage. So, underwater, traditions, rituals, not just built heritage, forts, old churches, Spanish forts, all of those. Okay? So why do we need to record? So it's like art. We're recording cultural heritage. The same, it's an expression of human achievement. It's constantly at risk, especially with your heritage. We have experienced that. Or firsthand, or you heard it from the news, from Typhoon Haiyan, Yolanda, earthquake, fires. So we document them just to preserve them. Okay? And it's our responsibility as custodians. So, like your work of art, you want it to last. You want the next generation. You want to transmit that to the next generation. So, same thing with cultural heritage. So, we have a law right now. So, RA 166, which mandates LGU, local government units, to have an inventory of all the heritage sites. So actually, it's part of one of the, what do you call that, the good government. You need that as, parang points, points, if you have that. So a lot of LGUs are now more aware of their heritage sites, within their locality. So we document that as well. So I think sometimes you heard yung cultural mapping na ginagawa, so it's part of the law na. So we're also doing that, And again, knowing what heritage sites you have in locality. It creates awareness, so in turn it leads to protection or conservation. Okay? So you can read that, or it's all available online. Further tips, if you're shooting your heritage, of course, number one is your gear, so tripod, small tripod, or monopod, you can. But right now kasi, if you go to some sites, if you have a tripod, parang you're very intimidating,
Professional.
Yeah, they think you're professional, kailangan na ng permit or whatever, so hirap, diba? So, an alternate to bringing a tripod is to carry a monopod. You see, right now, there are tripods that you can detach one of the legs and turn it into a monopod. Parang siyang walking stick, right? So you can use those. Actually, what it does is actually it provides stability na naman. Kahit you have one leg to stand on, a monopod is very usable, prevents shaking. So you can carry that. No? Of course, if you don't have a DSLR, you're less intimidating looking, so likely you get away with it, So, like I said, you check what is allowed, especially, let's say, if you go to a gallery or museum, National Museum will not allow you to carry a tripod or anything else, You cannot shoot with a flash, so everything's like that, okay? So, again, check with the people in charge on what equipment are allowed to use, okay? Wake up early, if you want to have less people, less cars, less distracting objects on the street, okay? And of course, read on the background. If you have an idea of the background, you understand a bit of it, then you tend to see details that other people will just take for granted, okay? Like, say, ano ba yung protrusion na yan, bakit meron dyan, those kind of things. And there. That's my website. I have some samples of 360. Mostly it's 360. Yeah, not the ilaw, firefly.ph, not the ilaw. You can check that out. I have some of those from. Yeah. I'll show you a bit. I use drones to shoot also. 360s. So this is one of my commercial work, Club Paradise, Palawan. Show off na to, show off. This is in Cubao. Terraces, Banawe. So this is cultural documentation. Vegan. This was shot very early, wala pang drone to Hindi pa uso ang drone before. So what I did here is, I climbed the bell tower. You can see the shot here. So I was on the bell tower of the church, and di ba may openings sa taas? I think mga 5 openings na 5 windows. So I just go out the window, put my camera out using a wide angle and shot through each of the window and stitch the photo. Medyo mahirap kasi I'm not rotating on the center of the axis Kasi I have to shoot around the window. So medyo madugo yung pag-edit na compose. Yeah, wala na siya. This is in Lubang Island, Mindoro. Corridor. This is in Tal. So I use 360 VR as journalism. This was Rizal Day. I think reinterment ni President Quirino. He was initially buried at Manila Cemetery, which is in Makati. Okay, another story. And then transferred eventually to Libingan ng mga Bayani. Okay. This was the wedding of Mar and Corina in front of the National Museum, the Black Nazarene. This was yung first US Coast Guard cutter na dinonate. This was in Manila Pen during the siege of Trillanes. I love doing journalism because it allows you to be there, and then by using technology, it transports the viewer at the center. So parang, you can be there, portraits ni Jesse Robledo when they're transporting his body back to Naga. Typhoon Haiyan. This was in Giwan. Yung simbahan ng Giwan was totally Immaculate Conception, right now. Yeah. I was there, I think about 10 days after the initial landfall. So, yan yung damage. This was GMA, President GMA, when she visited Sagada. This was during our Kalangay project. This was taken in Tawi-Tawi, Sibutu. Tutok, Pampanga. Lenten Rights. President Cory Aquino during her portage. So I was Quirino Station LRT. So I was on top of Quirino Station LRT and just extend my camera outside and just capture that.
Thank you so much so
Alright.
far for all the input, sir, from you. Just to summarize what we've had today for the workshop, you gave us pointers on the physical preparation to take photos of artworks, which focuses on keeping your camera steady, checking for evenness of lighting, color balance, checking for reflections and resolution of your camera. And then you taught us about digital post-processing workflow, from correcting proportions and skewing if needed, then focusing on brightness, shadows and highlights, color balance, and sharpening. And then you gave us a very brilliant tip on shooting panoramic shots by not moving our hands, but rather tilting the camera on its angle. And then you gave us a link to the free C2S so that we could post-process our images, as well as a good trick on how to enlarge the low-res old files by doing it in incremental percentages rather than one big jump. After which you gave us an idea on how to use HDR using Enfuse and shooting large-scale paintings using a stitching software called Plugin. Yeah. With that said, are there questions from the participants?
Yes. Questions, please.
Questions on how to improve your shooting of your photos?
It's either you're all amazed or you're all hungry.
Ayun. Wala na questions from the group. Anyway, Sir Fung, thank you so much for this wonderful afternoon. Thank you. In behalf of Auditions and so we thank you and we thank everyone and we have merienda.
Yay.
So I hope we could ask you on a personal